I'm Nate, 31, and I've always been the background character in my own family. Not bitter, just honest. I was the reliable one, the fixer, the one who quietly paid for things without making a scene. I never competed with my siblings for attention, never made holidays about myself, and never expected anyone to notice when I picked up the check or took time off work to help someone move or recover from surgery. I just did it. It's how I was raised. Don't ask for praise, just do the right thing. My sister, Camilla, 2 years younger, was the star of the show. She always had this magnetic pull, the kind of energy that made people bend toward her like sunflowers. She wasn't cruel, exactly, but she knew how to use people, especially me. She had that smile that could make a lie sound like a compliment, and for most of our lives, I let her get away with it. Camilla's wedding had been a year in the making. A Pinterest fever dream come to life. Pastel florals, handwritten name cards, a string quartet, the whole 9 yards. And who do you think helped foot the bill when her fiancé's family backed out of contributing last minute? Yours truly. She called me the investor, like it was a joke. But I didn't laugh when I wired $8,000 to secure the photographer she'd been obsessing over since high school. I didn't say a word when I offered to cover the honeymoon flights because Mom said they were strapped this month, and Camilla looked at me like it was just expected. I kept the receipts, not because I wanted to hold it over them, but because, deep down, a part of me still believed that if I did enough, gave enough, maybe, just maybe, they'd see me as something other than a spare part. The shift started a week before the wedding. I'd been coordinating with the photographer, finalizing the payment for the honeymoon, even drafting the speech Camilla had begged me to give at the rehearsal dinner. But then, little comments started slipping through. "Oh, Nate, maybe don't wear that navy suit," Camilla said casually on the phone. "It's a bit gloomy." Then, Mom chimed in, "Just try not to draw attention. Camilla deserves the spotlight, sweetie." I laughed it off. Old habits. But something about the tone stuck with me. It wasn't teasing. It was surgical. 2 days before the ceremony, the message came. No greeting. No warning. Just a clean little bubble of text on my phone that read, "Don't bother showing up. You'll ruin the photos." I stared at it for a full minute. Thought maybe I read it wrong. But no, that was it. My sister, the girl whose prom I drove her to in a hailstorm because her date bailed, the woman I helped move 3 times in 2 years, the bride I'd spent thousands helping, was telling me I wasn't welcome. Not even because of something I'd done. Just because. I might ruin the aesthetic. What twisted the knife wasn't even the text, it was the notification underneath it. Mom liked a message. I clicked it. She liked it. My mother had liked the message where I was told not to come to the wedding. That little thumbs up icon might as well have been a slap in the face. I didn't respond. Not immediately. I didn't call. I didn't yell. I just sat there, in my apartment, staring at the wall. I thought about all the times I'd put myself second, all the birthday dinners I paid for, all the emergencies I'd helped navigate. And for what? To be told I'd ruined the photos? I took a deep breath, stood up, and walked to my desk. Opened my laptop. First, I emailed the photographer. "Hi, this is Nathan. I'll no longer be requiring your services on Saturday. The payment was from my account, and I'd like to proceed with a cancellation. Please confirm receipt." They responded in less than 20 minutes. "Sorry to hear that. We'll process the refund minus the deposit." I didn't care about the deposit. Then I logged into my travel app and canceled the flights I'd booked for Camilla and her fiancé to Santorini. I'd paid for them on my own credit card, under my name. Refunds processed. Still silent. Still calm. But something deeper had snapped. Not in a vengeful way yet. More in a realization, they saw me as a wallet. A prop. Not a brother. Not a son. And certainly not someone whose absence would matter. I started thinking back to things I'd brushed off for years. How Camilla used to mock me in front of her friends and call it just teasing. How Mom once told me, after a rough breakup, "Well, you were kind of hard to love." I'd swallowed it all, convinced myself it was just family being blunt. But that night, I saw it for what it really was. Contempt dressed up as familiarity. I didn't text back. Didn't say a word. I wanted them to feel the silence. I wanted them to walk into that venue and realize something was off. Not right away. Slowly. Like a fog creeping in. The speech? Gone. The photographer? Vanished. The honeymoon? Canceled. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. The next morning, I drove to Dad's old house, now rented out to one of my childhood friends. He still kept a storage shed in the back, and inside was a dusty plastic bin with old family keepsakes. Photos, videos, even some of Camilla's childhood paintings. I borrowed a few of the more unflattering ones. You know, like her in the infamous dolphin costume at age 10, or her braces-era headshots. Then I went to a local print shop and had a few blown up into tasteful little posters, just to spice up the photo area they'd set up for guests. By noon, I dropped them off anonymously at the venue coordinator's office, labeled Camilla's Memory Lane. No return address. Just a sticky note. Surprise from a loving relative. Still no response from Camilla or Mom. No apology. No call. It was like I'd ceased to exist. But that was the thing. They'd assumed silence meant surrender. They didn't realize I was just watching, waiting, letting the cracks form. Because when everything you've built rests on someone else's money and effort, it only takes one person stepping back for the whole house of cards to tumble. And it was only a matter of time before it all came down. The day before the wedding, I went into the office like it was any other Friday. I didn't take time off. Didn't clear my schedule. I answered emails, signed contracts, smiled at coworkers. But inside, I was tracking every move they made like a general watching enemy formations shift before a siege. Around lunchtime, I got a ping on my phone. A group message I had apparently not been removed from oversight on Camilla's part, I'm sure. Camilla, quick update for everyone. The photographer had to cancel last minute, emergency or something. We're scrambling, but if anyone knows someone good, please reach out. Need someone by tomorrow. There it was. The first tremor. I read it 3 times, sipping my coffee like it was wine. Then, 30 minutes later, another message. Camilla, also, anyone know what happened to the honeymoon flights? Site says the reservation no longer exists. If this is a glitch, I'm going to lose it. The knot in my chest started to unwind, just a little. It wasn't satisfaction yet. Not quite. But it was clarity. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't confused. I wasn't wondering what I did wrong or how I could fix things. I was watching people who had used and dismissed me slowly realize I wasn't going to let them anymore. I didn't reply. Didn't offer help. The group chat started blowing up with speculation. Her fiancé, Brandon, chimed in once, asking if the photographer was paid in full. Camilla ignored the question. I figured he didn't know I had paid for most of this. They'd probably told him I was just helping a little. That's the thing about people like them. They lie as naturally as breathing, even to the people they supposedly love. By 5 p.m., Mom called. I stared at the screen ringing. Her name. That generic smiling photo she'd taken back in 2014. My thumb hovered. And then I declined the call. I waited for the voicemail. She didn't leave one. Then, 2 minutes later, a text. Nate, please call me. There's a mix-up with the travel stuff and Camilla is getting anxious. We need to talk. Anxious. Not sorry. Not confused. Just anxious. Like I was an IT guy and they were reporting a bug in the system I needed to fix. That night, I cooked myself dinner. Steak. Asparagus. Real mashed potatoes. Poured a glass of wine. Lit a candle. Put my phone on silent. I played an old album I hadn't listened to in years and sat in my little apartment, finally, feeling like I had some control over my own story. The next morning was the wedding. I didn't go. Instead, I put on a comfortable hoodie, grabbed a coffee from the bakery down the street, and walked to the park. The air was crisp, the world quiet, and I felt detached, not angry, not bitter, just done. Then, at 10:11 a.m., my phone buzzed again. My cousin Liam. Bro, did you cancel the photographer and honeymoon? What is happening? I replied simply, I did. Ask Camilla why. He responded, she's sobbing. Your mom's yelling at the planner. Brandon looks like he wants to walk into traffic. I didn't type anything else. Just locked my phone and watched a dog run after a pigeon. A few hours later, I checked Instagram. Camilla had posted one of those black text on white background story updates. Not everything goes according to plan. Thank you to everyone who showed up and helped us through a very unexpected day. Love you all. The comments were a mix of generic support and subtle confusion. You still look beautiful. Hope you still had a magical day. Can't wait to hear the story someday, LOL. But what really got me was the caption on the only photo she posted. Her and Brandon in the church doorway, clearly taken by a guest's iPhone. Grainy. Off-center. Cropped weird. Against all odds, hashtag just married. Against all odds? You mean against the odds of disrespecting the one person funding half your fantasy wedding? The moment felt surreal. A year ago, I would have killed to be part of that day. I would have stood beside her, grinning for the cameras, giving the speech of a lifetime, helping her live her dream. And now, I didn't feel like I'd missed anything. I felt like I'd finally woken up from something. But it wasn't over. Because at 8:07 p.m., my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole. It was Brandon. Hair messy, tie crooked, expression unreadable. He knocked once, then stepped back. He looked tired, not furious, not confused. I opened the door slowly. He blinked at me. Hey, can we talk? My stomach tightened, but I kept my face still. You guys aren't on your honeymoon? His jaw tensed. Yeah, about that. I let him in. And that's when everything started to unravel, faster than I could have imagined. Brandon stepped into my apartment like a man walking into enemy territory, not with aggression, but with the wary energy of someone realizing too late that he might have backed the wrong team. He glanced around, taking in the minimalist setup, books stacked on the end table, one lonely plant wilting in the corner, the untouched wine glass still on the kitchen counter from the night before. I gestured toward the couch. He sat down, slowly, hands clasped between his knees, silent for a few seconds, long enough for me to wonder if he was rehearsing what to say or figuring out how to say it without implicating himself. Then, finally, he spoke. I didn't know, he said, voice low. I swear to you, Nate, I didn't know you were paying for any of it. I raised an eyebrow. None of it. He shook his head. Camilla said your gift was just covering the photographer's deposit. That's it. She told me her uncle was paying for the flights, that the honeymoon was his gift to us. I leaned back in my chair. Did you ever ask? He sighed. I did. A couple of times. She'd changed the subject. I figured. I don't know. She was stressed. Weddings are a mess. I didn't respond right away. There was a part of me, small, but loud, that wanted to unload every petty detail. Every receipt. Every phone call. Every subtle jab I'd swallowed. But I could see in his face that he was already unraveling. The way his fingers tapped nervously against his knee. The redness creeping into his eyes. He wasn't just tired. He was shaken. He cleared his throat. Look, I know we don't really know each other that well, but I wanted to come here myself. She's in full meltdown mode. She thinks you ruined the wedding out of spite. I gave a small, humorless laugh. Out of spite. Or because I was told I'd ruin the photos. Brandon winced. I saw the text. Her phone was open while she was crying on the bathroom floor. I read it. I didn't even know your mom liked it until you mentioned it just now. She didn't think I'd actually step back, I said. None of them did. That's the problem. He nodded slowly, letting the words hang there. Then he leaned forward, elbows on knees. She said something this morning, he said. After we realized the photographer was a no-show and the flight confirmation was gone. She was screaming. And in the middle of it, she blurted out. He was never supposed to matter this much. That one hit different. It shouldn't have surprised me. But hearing it said aloud, from her fiancé, made it real in a way it hadn't been before. She said that. I asked. He nodded, eyes full of something that looked like regret. Or shame. Or both. She didn't even mean it maliciously. More like she genuinely didn't understand how things could fall apart without you. I let out a long breath through my nose. And your mom, he added carefully. She's been egging it all on. Camilla didn't want to cut you out entirely. She was just upset. The photos thing was supposed to be, like, petty, temporary. Your mom told her it would blow over if she just stayed firm. I felt something cold settle in my chest. It wasn't anger. Not anymore. It was something quieter. Resignation, maybe. A confirmation of everything I'd suspected for years, but never dared confront. That mom had always favored Camilla. That she saw my usefulness as something to be harvested, not appreciated. That she assumed I'd always come back. Always pay. Always forgive. She told Camilla to hold the line, Brandon said. Said if she gave in to you now, she'd be setting a dangerous precedent. Her words. I laughed. Not out of amusement, just disbelief. Like I'm a toddler trying to get a cookie before dinner. Brandon nodded, lips pressed into a thin line. She also said, if you really cared, you would have still shown up. Of course. They were rewriting the narrative in real time. I could hear it already. Nate was selfish. Nate sabotaged the day. Nate made it about him. Never mind the money. Never mind the silence. Never mind the years of being treated like an afterthought until my bank account was needed. Brandon stood. Look, I don't know what happens next. Camilla's not speaking to me right now. She's crying in the bathtub and your mom is blaming the wedding planner for everything. But I didn't want to leave it like this. I needed you to know. This wasn't how I wanted to start our marriage. I tilted my head. You still think it's starting? That one caught him off guard. He blinked, hesitated. I don't know. His honesty surprised me, but it was the kind that came from someone whose illusions had just been shattered. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope. I found this in her planner. Thought you should have it. He handed it to me. Inside was the speech I'd written, the one I'd drafted weeks ago, that Camilla had asked for and never acknowledged again. It was printed and highlighted. Notes scribbled in the margins. Make this part funnier. Cut this, too sappy. Add more about her. I smiled without warmth. Nice to know I was being edited. Brandon gave me a sheepish look. I'm sorry, man. For all of it. I didn't reply. After he left, I sat on the couch and stared at that speech for a long time. The words felt like they belonged to someone else. Someone still clinging to hope that a few kind lines could mend years of damage. But I wasn't that person anymore. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting my apartment in orange light, my phone buzzed again. Camilla. First call. Then another. Then a voicemail. Then a text. I hope you're happy. Everyone's asking where the photographer is. Why the photos look like garbage. Brandon won't talk to me. I know what you did, and you'll regret it. I put the phone down without replying. I didn't regret it. Not even a little. 3 days passed. I didn't answer a single call, didn't reply to a single message. Camilla texted again the next morning, something about how I'd ruined the most important day of her life. Then again later that night, a paragraph about betrayal, family, forgiveness, followed by a line that sounded suspiciously like Mom wrote it. You've made your point. Now stop acting like a child. Brandon didn't follow up, but I wasn't expecting him to. He'd done his part. He came clean. I don't know what conversations happened behind closed doors between them, but if the silence from his number meant anything, I suspected it wasn't going well. He wasn't defending her anymore. He wasn't defending them. But on the 4th day, the knock came. Not the doorbell, just a knock. Loud. Short. I opened it to find my mother standing there, arms crossed, expression tight. I didn't invite her in. Just leaned against the frame, blocking the entrance. She didn't wait for me to speak. You made your sister cry so hard she threw up. I gave her a dry look. And she's humiliated. We had to explain to everyone why the wedding had no professional photos, why the honeymoon was postponed, why you weren't there. Why wasn't I there, Mom? I interrupted, arms crossed. She blinked, clearly not expecting pushback. Because you got offended over a text message. You sabotaged your own sister's wedding because your feelings were hurt. No, I said, steady. I didn't go because I was uninvited. Don't twist this. Camilla told me not to come. You liked the message. She looked away for a second, just a flick of the eyes, then squared her shoulders again. It was obviously an overreaction. She was stressed. You knew she didn't mean it. Didn't mean it? I laughed once, sharp. Mom, you liked the message where she told me I'd ruin the photos. That's not stress. That's cruelty with a thumbs up. She shifted on her feet. You always do this. You dramatize everything. No, I used to internalize everything, I snapped. I let it slide when you ignored my birthdays. I let it slide when Camilla mocked me in front of her friends. I let it slide when you said I was hard to love. I let it all slide. But this time, you pushed too far. And the only reason you're here is because your golden child's perfect little wedding fell apart. Her jaw tightened. You know what your problem is? You want to be the victim in everything. You couldn't just support your sister. You had to make it about you. I stared at her. You know what? I used to believe that. That if I just stayed quiet, worked hard, paid the bills, maybe one day I'd finally be enough for this family. But I've finally figured it out. You never saw me as a son, just as a resource. And now that I've shut off the tap, suddenly I'm selfish. Her face reddened. Whether from anger or embarrassment, I didn't care anymore. You're overreacting, she said again, quieter now. No, I said, voice calm, but final. I'm done reacting. I'm done being the afterthought who pays for everyone else's mistakes. I canceled the honeymoon because it was mine to cancel. I canceled the photographer because I paid every cent. And I didn't show up because I was told not to. That's not sabotage. That's compliance. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. I stepped back. You should go. Nate. Go. She hesitated, then walked off without another word. That night, I went to my filing cabinet and pulled out a manila folder. Inside were all the receipts, the wire transfers, the hotel bookings, the plane tickets, the contract with the photographer, every financial contribution I made to that wedding. I scanned them, printed copies, and wrote a short letter. To whom it may concern, attached are the receipts and bank statements for all services and expenses paid toward Camilla's wedding and honeymoon. As you can see, I am the sole financial contributor for the following: $8,000 to the photography company, $4,200 for the honeymoon flights and resort booking, $1,600 in additional expenses related to decor, catering supplements, and transportation. In total, $13,800 of my personal funds were used at the request of the bride and family. All expenses were paid in good faith under the assumption that I would be part of the event. I was subsequently told via text message not to attend, with no apology or clarification since. I have decided not to pursue legal recourse, but I am formally requesting that my name no longer be mentioned in any narrative surrounding the alleged ruining of the event. I did not ruin the wedding. I simply withdrew. Best of luck, Nathan. I mailed a copy to my mother, another to Camilla and Brandon, and a third, just for good measure, to my aunt, the one who always hosted holiday dinners and had a habit of accidentally bringing up family gossip in front of 30 people. It was surgical, clean, no drama, just facts. 2 weeks passed. No response. And then, without fanfare, Camilla posted a photo on Instagram. Her and Brandon, sitting on a bench near a lake. No hashtags. No hearts. Just a caption that said, "Starting fresh." I didn't know what that meant. Whether they were still together. Whether she was trying to spin a news story. I didn't care. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to get back in. I wasn't waiting for an apology or some half-hearted reconciliation over holiday wine and fake smiles. I was done. And with that closure, I made the last decision I needed to make. I called my bank and had the final auto payments shut off. My parents' cell phone plan, which I'd been quietly covering for years, the Amazon Prime account under my card that they all shared, and the streaming service I'd never used but kept active because Camilla couldn't live without it. They could live without me just fine, apparently. And now they would. The next morning, my phone buzzed with the final ripple. A group text titled Family Chat. "Camilla, Nate, can you fix the phone plan? It's saying inactive. Mom, we're all having issues with the internet. Did you change something?" I looked at the screen. The silence from me spoke louder than any answer ever could. I left the group. That was the last message I ever received. And strangely, it felt less like cutting them off and more like setting myself free. Not from them. From the version of me who kept trying to prove his worth to people who had already decided he was only as good as his credit limit. They didn't lose a brother. They lost their personal ATM. And I finally found peace in not being invited back.